Hey guys, my name's Grace, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the NSLIY application. I have quite a bit of experience with the application. I did virtual NSLIY in 2021, I did the Korean program, and then I applied for Korean summer in 2022, and then I was accepted to the Korean summer program in 2023. So I just got back a couple of months ago, and the application's opened up again. And so I've been meeting up with lots of people and giving them all my application tips and tricks. But I figured I would make a video just with some information, and hopefully that will help everyone out there who's applying, because it is a very, long application process and it can be very stressful. So yeah, we're just gonna get into it. I have some notes. I'm just gonna go over my biggest tips and hopefully answer some of your questions. So basically what happens is you submit your application usually in early November. I think it's like November 3rd this year. Don't quote me on that, check for yourself. Turn your application in a couple of days before the due date. Like, work on it as early in advance as you can, because you don't want to be submitting it right like minutes before the deadline and then for like the site to crash or something and then you can't submit it. Because then your application, they won't accept it if it's not in at exactly the due date. So don't be that person. That would be horrible. Once you submit your application, you're gonna hear back. For me, it was in December. Don't freak out if you haven't heard back. Even if you don't move on to semifinals, they're still gonna let you know that you're not moving on. So like, don't panic if you don't get anything. They might just be taking longer. So and then once you go to semifinalist, you have to go to the doctor and get like a physical, basically just make sure you're healthy to go. You'll do an interview, and you'll submit, I think your parents submit a letter. And anyways, there's just a couple more steps. You'll find out if you're accepted. I think I found out like late April, but it depends on which language you're applying to. Anyways, don't be stressed about that. I just kind of want to give you a rough timeline of how things are going to go down. But for the actual like initial application, here are the things that I tell everybody. So I really think that I got in because I had a really strong recommendation letter, and my counselor, she wrote it for me. She like really tied in languages and how I had like pursued language and cultural exchange in my extracurricular activities. So what I would really recommend is for you to make like a brag sheet when you ask your recommender to write your recommendation letter, and just list like, these are my activities, this is like the language I'm applying to. And even if you don't have like language experience, you haven't learned another language before, I like tutored English, so that was, an extracurricular that, went along with languages, right? So like, if you don't have anything like that like really connects with languages or like cultural exchange, don't sweat it. Just tell like your counselor, I'm applying for Chinese because explain why you're applying to Chinese. Try to find ways to tie in your extracurriculars into the language you want to learn. You really want to become a nurse, and there's like a big Russian population where you live, and so you want to learn how to speak Russian to help people. Another thing kind of along with that though is, don't ask your like Spanish teacher or your French teacher to write your recommendation letter just because they're your French or your Spanish teacher. Ask whoever is going to write you the best recommendation letter. You might think like, oh, I'm in their Spanish class, like they know that I'm learning Spanish, but do they like know you as a person, and like, are they the teacher you're the closest with? Then don't ask. Like, it's really not going to get you any extra points. You can tell, if you ask your biology teacher, you can be like, hey, I'm taking Spanish, here's what I'm learning in Spanish, if you could tie that in. That's great. That'll be way better to have a teacher who actually knows you write your recommendation letter. Okay, so that's my rant about recommendation letters. Now let's talk about essays. Essays are honestly the hardest part, and I just would really encourage you to approach it like you would a college essay. And when I was preparing my application, I watched tons of college essay videos. And I feel like that's a great way to learn how to write good essays. Know you're going to have to draft and rewrite things, and you know, you're probably not going to want to submit your first draft. I mean, you can. I think the year that I submitted my first draft, but I had written like, I'd applied like 2 other times, so I'd written these essays into these exact prompts like 2 other times. So take that how you want to. But I would encourage you to draft and redraft. And if you have teachers that you don't want to show it to too many people where it like it's not authentic to you anymore, but if you have like an English teacher that you can be like, hey, will you proofread this? That's fantastic. I would totally recommend that if you feel comfortable asking. You really want to focus on your essays, how you're involved and interested with languages. That's the key thing, is you have to think of it as the government is investing in you. They want you to go to this country and learn a language that's important for national security, right? So they want to know that you're a good person to invest in. You're going to be committed to learning the language. You're not thinking like, oh, this is just a vacation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, just along with that, I know I said this, but I really want to bring the point home. I had people in my cohort that were planning on majoring in nursing and computer science. You don't necessarily have to want to be a diplomat or, you know, work in government necessarily, but if those are your goals, that's what you're interested in, that doesn't hurt. But if you can tie in, this is why I'm interested in learning Indonesian, and because of like computer science, if you can find a way to tie that in somehow, and I'm sure you can, then you're gonna be golden. So don't worry too much about what your plans are if you're not interested in anything like State Department related. Another thing is, this is just college essay application tip. Tell NSLIY what you can do for them, not what they can do for you. And I think there's an essay where you're writing why you want to participate in NSLIY, why you want to go to the country you picked. And this is like a good opportunity to be like, this is what with the skills and the things I learn in Korea or wherever you go, this is what I'm going to do. And, you know, I can be more active in my community. I can, you know, as I go to college and this is my major, this is what I'll do with this, or I'll like show how you're going to use your language skills positively once you get home. And then you also in your essays, try to think of stories that show that you're flexible, adaptable, and mature. Because they're looking for students who are going to be able to handle being immersed in a new culture and can live with a host family that may have different rules or expectations than your own family. You have to be independent enough to navigate a new city, take public transportation, try new foods. So yeah, I mean, it can be like a stressful, I loved my program. There were stressful moments, but like I wasn't overwhelmed. But I think that's maybe has more to do with my personality type. So maybe I would just say, try and show that you are those things and that you are capable of having this experience, and that, you know, you're not gonna be like, okay, I'm ready to go home when the first, you know, when the first thing goes wrong. You know what I'm saying? So tell stories that show that you have those qualities, instead of saying, I'm flexible, I'm adaptable, I'm mature. Tell stories that show that you are those things. I'm not going to get into semi-finalist stuff, but maybe I'll make another video and talk about that, because I have tons of tips on the interview, and I actually have a list of questions that they ask, and when I was preparing for my interviews, I just practiced going through each of those questions, and that was the most helpful thing to me. But maybe I'll just read my essay that got me into the program. My essays are all actually kind of bad. So maybe I won't read them. If you want a video where I just go through and I read my essays and I kind of break them down, I will do it, but not happily. Just kidding. Or a video on the semi-finalist stage. But main thing is just, you know, show your personality, show you're adaptable, flexible, mature, and that you're interested about languages and cultural exchange, and that you're going to take the things that you learn abroad and be able to implement them into your life when you come back to the US. If you can do those things, you're going to be pretty well off, and it's an amazing program. So I'm excited for everyone. I'm so excited for everyone that's applying, and yeah, so just try not to sweat it too much. It's totally worth the long and stressful application process, I promise. So anyways, hope that helped. Maybe I'll make some more videos. See you guys later. Peace out.